Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you all about the DJ mixer and its features. This mixer we have right here is the Rain 62 mixer. It's a 2-channel mixer and it's got a lot of bells and whistles. It's got a lot going on. It's very professional and high-end. However, when you're starting out, you may want to get a cheaper mixer that's not so high-end, in which case you just want to make sure it has all the key features that I'm about to show you. But you can totally learn on a cheaper mixer. But if you got the cash, this one's the one to get. It's really dope. Okay, so first of all, we have our mixer and we're gonna wanna turn it on, right? But before we turn it on, we have to make sure all our levels are down. Because if it's hooked up to speakers, we don't wanna blow the speakers out. So we're gonna wanna make sure everything's down and off, pretty much. And then we're gonna turn it on. So once it's on, now we can set our levels and stuff. So the first thing we're gonna do is the master level. The master level on this mixer is up here. It's this knob right here. The master level or main level affects the sound that you hear out on the dance floor or out on your main speakers. So that's the level that everyone else is gonna hear, right? And if you're at a club or something like that and you're working with a sound guy or a sound woman, you wanna work with them to set the master level at what they think is best, because then they're gonna boost your sound according to that. And then you're gonna wanna set it and leave it. You don't really need to mess with it because you have a lot of other levels here where you can control the volume and make it as loud or as soft as you need. So you set your master and you leave it. Then we have the booth level. The booth level is your monitor, your own private domain, right? That's your reference monitor, your speaker that you can hear that is an exact representation, or pretty much as close as you can get, to what they're hearing on the dance floor. That level is right here. Okay, the next thing on this mixer is the channels. This mixer has 2 channels and each channel has all the same functions on both sides. If you have a 4-channel mixer, you'll have the same thing. It'll just have 4 channels with all the same functions. The first function that you really need are up and down faders. Some mixers actually have knobs where you have the volume, but most have these up and down faders, right? And these faders control the volume of the individual channel. Now, a lot of mixers have curve adjustments on the faders. The curve adjustment adjusts the kind of fade that you have on the fader, right? So you can either have a quick fade that comes right in, right away, like 0 to full volume, or you can have a slow fade, and if you think of it like a triangle, right? Slow fade, crescendos out to the big sound, or anywhere in between. So the curve adjustment on this mixer is in the front, and for each channel, so we got the right one and the left one, and I have it set to slow. So that's the slowest fade. That's what I prefer for mixing. It's a nice, slow, even fade for nice, even blends. And it sounds like this. Now, if you want to make it a faster fade, you just turn the knob to closer to fast. So we'll do it in the middle so you can hear the difference. See how it came in much faster that time? So now, if you're going to do some tricks like scratching with the up and down faders, you might want to set it to the fast fade, right? Because that comes full on sound right when you move the fader. So there's no fade whatsoever, it's just in there, right? So for mixing, keep it on slow or close to slow. And that'll give you the smoothest fade. Now with each channel, you're also gonna have volume meters. The volume meters on this mixer are located right here. So when you have audio playing, even if your volume faders for each channel aren't up, you can see how loud the track is, which is pretty cool, right? A general rule of thumb is to keep it out of the red. All mixers are different. Some have more reds than others, more red dots per se than others, but this one only has 1. So you want to keep it out of that red entirely. And the reason being is because when it's in the red, it distorts and it makes you sound crappy, and you don't want to sound crappy. And you also piss off the sound guy, and you definitely don't want that, right? So keep it out of the red. Usually if it's tickling the yellow, like a strong yellow, and then it tickles the top one, that's great. Now with the volume fader, you're gonna wanna put it all the way up, right? You're not gonna wanna fade in a song and only do it halfway or 3/4 of the way and be like, okay, that's loud enough, I just wanna leave it there. The reason why is because if you're doing something or some drunk person comes up and knocks your turntables or whatever, an earthquake happens, who knows? It might jack that up and go full volume and it would blow out the speakers or blow people their ears off or whatever, they'll explode because it's too loud, right? And you don't want that. You want to have full control. So you want to set it so you push the fader all the way up all the time and not just leave it in the middle for safety reasons. And if it needs to be quieter or louder from that position, that's where you use the gain knob. The gain knob is on each channel and it's usually at the top of the mixer. And so say this was too loud when it's all the way up. So as I'm fading it up, I might want to, or actually as you're cueing it in the headphones and previewing it, that's when you'd want to change it. And you'd want to adjust it and turn it down a little so that when you get all the way up, it's the right volume. Now, if it's too quiet when it's all the way up, instead of messing with the master, remember, you don't want to touch that. You want to touch the gain and turn it up there, right? And that'll adjust it. And you can see right here. Now that's too loud because it's touching the red, right? So I'm going to adjust it so that it's right for this song. It's right there in the middle. And remember, every song is different. So some are going to be louder, some are going to be lower, especially if you're just DJing with records. If you're DJing with software, you can set your volumes ahead of time, but this is especially important when DJing with just records or just CDs because things are pressed at all different levels. So this is how you control it a bit more. The next thing that's on each channel is the EQ. The EQ stands for equalizer, and it has 3 different frequencies, high, mids, and lows. And these knobs allow you to control those frequencies. So we have our highs. The highs are just like the hi-hats, the trebly sounding sounds. The mids, mid-range sounds, are like the middle range stuff, right? And then the lows are the bass. And the EQ allows for really smooth mixes. So you already have your fader set to smooth, but this lets you enhance it more because you can fade in and fade out certain frequencies. You can switch frequencies on both sides and stuff like that. And it makes for some really cool, smooth mixes. Next up, we have the pan knobs. The pan knobs are on each channel as well, and it pans from the left speaker to the right speaker. So let's hear what it sounds like. Next, we have the phono line selector, or the phono line switch. Some mixers, it literally just says phono and line, and it's a switch. It could be located here or up here. But on this mixer, it's got some snazzy stuff going on. So we have phono, and then we also have CD. So you can actually have CDJs plugged in and turntables and just switch back and forth. Even though it only has 2 channels, you can have 4 things plugged in. Or even more, actually. We'll go into that later. So then you also have the digital or the line. And this actually has 2. And we'll get into that a little later when we get into Serato. But it has 2, so you can hook up 2 laptops. Line in can also be for an iPod or a CD, but we already have CDs on this one, so you don't need that. But you know what I'm saying, right? You can plug anything into the line. Now we also have the aux in, or auxiliary in, or session in. It can be called a few different things on mixers. This one is called session in, and it has a session out. And that's also for if you want to plug in something else, whether it be some sort of controller, or like some sort of outboard gear, or even just an iPod or your phone or whatever. That's here. And it has volume knobs. Then we also have the mic volume. And that's here. And it also has a volume meter for that. So remember, stay out of the red. And then it also has an EQ. but this only has highs and lows. You don't really need a fancy EQ, but it is good to have an EQ on your mic more than just the volume knob, because sometimes it can be too bassy and cause feedback and stuff like that with your vocal. So you want to turn the lows down a little bit so it cuts through a little nicer. The next feature I'm going to show you is one of my favorite features on a mixer. It's the crossfader. The crossfader is what ties everything together. So it's just like the up and down faders where it has a curve on it, but this fader is different because it ties both sides together. So when it's to the left, you hear the left turntable. When it's to the right, you hear the right turntable. And when it's in the middle, you hear both. So let's hear what that sounds like. I have a different song over here than this song, right? So you can hear the difference. I'm going to put this volume up and the fader's all the way to the left. I'm going to start this one to the right. When it's in the middle, you hear both. Now, like I said, this fader has a curve adjustment just like these. The curve adjustment for this fader on this mixer is in the front as well. Now, I have this set to fast. And the reason why is because I do most of my mixing with the up and downs because I feel personally that that makes for a smoother mix. You have more capabilities if you have them individually controlling the volume with these faders. You can just blend with the crossfader. In that case, you would want to set it to the slow setting or in the middle, you know. And the reason why is because you want, if you were going to mix with the crossfader, you'd want it to fade into the other one. So if I have two songs playing, I'm going to use the crossfader and I'm going to fade over and you're going to see what that sounds like. But you have way more capabilities if you use the up and downs to mix, in which case I usually leave the fader in the middle and then mix with the up and downs. And the other reason why is because I like to scratch. So even if you're not a technical scratcher, it's still, you can just, you know, just to cut a song in, just to let it go, this is very helpful. So I put it all the way to fast. That way when I drop it, it's full sound, even if it's just a tiny, tiny bit in. Right? Then I can do scratches and just cut it right in. Even if I'm not doing technical scratches, like I said, it was just, you know, even if I just want to, if I have this song playing and I want to drop this one halfway in, right? And then start mixing it up and then fading the other one out. It gives you a lot more leeway. And even with this, it's such a smoother experience with the fades because these are longer fades than this. If you look at this, it's short, right? So by the time it's in the middle, they're both full volume, equal volume. So it's just like that amount of length. Whereas these are twice the length and you can adjust it and you can leave it in a certain area and do, you know, way more stuff with it. So my advice to you is, first of all, my advice to you is do what is best for you. But my advice to you as far as mixing, if you're watching this video, you're looking for my advice, right? And that is to mix with the up and downs and leave the crossfader in the middle or to the left or to the right, depending on what you're doing. But do all your mixing with the up and downs. Next, we have the headphones. The headphone level is right here. And that's your own private domain, so you can have it as loud as you want. Just be careful for your ears. But no one else is going to hear how loud this is. And right below that, we have the pan knob for the headphones, or the pan fader, depending on the mixer. Sometimes it's a fader. But this knob is different than the pan for the channel. It's not going from right to left speaker. This is panning from Q to main. And Q, in this case, meaning preparing your next track or hearing your next track before anyone else hears it. And the way you can set up your Q, on most mixers, you should have a switch or a button near each channel. That's the Q switch or the Q button. And that activates it so you can hear it in the Q. So if I only want to just hear this record before it's playing out, I would make sure this is lit up right here. And then I can hear it in my headphones when the pan is set to Q, even if it's not playing out. And same with this. And then if for some reason I want to hear both, on this mixer you can hit both. So for this, now if you want to pan between Q and main, you just adjust the knob. The main is the master out what everyone's hearing, right? So if you're trying to mix to what everyone's hearing, so if this is the record that's playing out and you're trying to beat match it and mix, you're going to want to hear this in the Q too. So you cue it up, you get it on, and then you move the knob so you can hear the main a little bit. I usually like it around halfway, and then I can hear both at the same time and beat match it. Now, if you want to hear your Q level, the one you're cueing in, the song you're cueing in, louder, you just move the knob closer to the Q. And if you want to hear the main louder, you just turn it closer to the main. And some mixers have a fader, so it's just like you fade the fader over and fade the fader over. Every mixer is different in that respect, but they should all have some sort of pan mode for the headphones. Then some mixers also have a split Q feature. The split Q feature splits the signal in your headphones so that the left turntable is playing in the left headphone and the right turntable is playing in the right headphone rather than both playing in both. And that's very helpful, especially for beginners who are having a problem differentiating which song is which or what they're hearing. Sometimes it helps to split it in your head, so to speak, so that you can know which is which. However, I personally like to keep it in both because then I can hear both. And a lot of times, and I'll show you later how to mix to the monitor, I will only have one headphone on. I'll have one on my ear and I'll be listening to the monitor with my other ear. And in that time, you don't want to have it split Q. You want to have it both in both. But that's the split Q feature for those who are interested. So those are all the basic features of a mixer and what you want to look for when you're buying a mixer. And like I said, the fader curve is really important, especially if you're interested in scratching later on. When you're buying a mixer, you're going to want to find a mixer that has a very sharp curve on the fader, one that starts like right in, so you have full volume right away. Even some that have a sharp curve, some of them fade a little bit, and it can get really frustrating when you're learning to scratch. So make sure it has a really sharp curve, especially if you're looking to scratch later on. Now, a lot of mixers also have extra bells and whistles. This mixer actually has a lot of features on it that are dedicated to the software it's associated with, which is Serato Scratch Live or Serato DJ. And you can actually control the software with some of these features. And the hardware for the software, the audio interface, is actually inside the mixer. So we'll talk about that a little bit later if you're interested. But right now we're just covering the basic features that you can actually just use with records. However, some mixers have effects, and this one does too, effects that you can apply to vinyl as well, not just the software. This mixer has a bunch of effects available. There's a lot of mixers that have effects, and I'll show you some of these effects right now. So we have the echo. On this mixer, you hit the flex effects to activate it just on one channel, and I already have it set to on. So the effects are on, and it's activated. And you can hear the echo. And it has parameters here that you can set, so I can tap out the beat. So it's in line with the beat, and then I can change the beats to thirds or eighth notes, you know, different gradations of the beat. And then I can also control the depth with this knob. So I can make it super echoey or like very little echo. And then there's other effects like a phaser. And a flanger. A filter. A reverb. a robot. So that's just a little overview of the effects on this mixer. All mixers are different though, so it just depends on what kind of mixer you get. And another feature that's available now on a lot of mixers is a high and low pass filter per channel. And that knob is right here, and this is what it sounds like. And that feature is really cool because it allows you to make even smoother mixes and do cool effects. So you can literally filter out a certain frequency and make it filter to 0, and it's like super smooth. So that's pretty much it. Those are all the basic features of a DJ mixer and what to look for, along with a few little added bonuses if you want that in your mixer. In the next videos, I'm going to show you all about hardware associated with different software platforms that you can plug in with your mixer and turntables. So we're going to do Serato, and we're also going to do Tractor. And then after that, we'll go through the software themselves, and I'll show you all the features. I'll see you then.